Today we are going to discuss the solar eclipse. Before we know the meaning of the solar eclipse and how does it occur, we need to discuss some facts. Now, we all know that the light of the sun travels in straight lines, and these straight lines, if something blocks it, like a tree, for example, like here in the picture, so a shadow of this object is formed. So you can see here in the picture, a tree blocks the sun rays, and so the shadow is formed on the ground. So why do we need to discuss this? We need to discuss this to know that the same thing happens in case of the solar eclipse. Now, what happens here is that, or what you should know here, is that the moon revolves or rotates around the Earth in a specific orbit or in a fixed orbit, and the Earth itself rotates or revolves with the moon in a certain orbit around the sun. Okay, so they both rotate around the sun. So why is this important, or what's the relation between this fact and the solar eclipse? So let's know now. What happens is that during the rotation of the moon around the Earth and the rotation of the Earth around the sun, so sometimes the three of them, they come on one straight line, like we see here in the picture, that the Earth, moon and sun will come on one straight line. So what's happening here is that the sun produces its light, and its light is going to be blocked by the moon. We all know that the moon is a dark object, so it's going to block the sunlight coming out, okay? And there's a type of shadow which will be formed on the Earth's surface. And this phenomena is called solar eclipse. So here we say that, or we define the solar eclipse as it's an astronomical. The word astronomical means related to space. And phenomena, we all know the phenomena. This is something that happens in nature, like volcanoes, like earthquakes. All these are phenomena, are different types of phenomena. So an astronomical, that means a certain phenomenon that happens in space. This is called an astronomical phenomena. Okay, so this astronomical phenomena, it happens when the Earth, moon and the sun, they are formed on one straight line with the moon in the middle. Okay, the moon should be in the middle, as we saw in the previous picture. Here the moon is located in the middle, okay, and the moon is going to block the light of the sun, and it's going to cast its shadow on it's going to cast its shadow. The word cast means to produce or to send its shadow on the Earth. Okay, so when it casts its shadow on the Earth, and when this the whole phenomena happens, so part or all the sunlight on this part of the Earth is going to be blocked, or it's going to be hidden. So when a solar eclipse happens, what can we see in the solar eclipse? As we see here, there's a lighted area. This lighted area, this is the sun, of course, okay? And there is a dark area, okay? And this is what I see here, the dark circle. This is the dark circle of the moon, which passes in front of the sun in order to block it. So that what we are going to see in the solar eclipse. So let's go again and discuss the types of shadows as you see in the picture. Okay, so we need to discuss the types of shadows that are formed. Okay, can you see here? There are two on the screen. There are two types of shadow for the object. There is a dark shadow, which is an inner one. This is an inner shadow area or a dark shadow area, and I call it umbra. I call it what? I call it umbra. And there is another type of shadow, which is a faint outer shadow, and this faint outer shadow, you can see both types of shadows on in both pictures. Okay, so there is a dark inner one and a faint outer one. So the dark inner one, this is called umbra, and the faint outer one is called penumbra. So why do we need to discuss this? We need to discuss this because these two types of shadows are going to be formed as well in case of the moon or in case of the solar eclipse. So the types of shadows in the solar eclipse, as we see here, it's the cone shadow. Another name for the umbra or the cone shadow is the real shadow area or the inner shadow. These are different names for the umbra. Okay, so the cone shadow or the umbra, it's the dark inner shadow area in which the total solar eclipse appears. Okay, while the penumbra, which is the semi-shadow, it's the word semi means half, so a semi-shadow means not a real one. Okay, and that's why it's the faint one. So the faint outer shadow in which the partial solar eclipse appears. So simply when we say the cone shadow or the real shadow area or the part which is the dark area of the shadow, if I'm standing in this area on the earth, okay, so I'm going to see a total solar eclipse. That means I'm not going to see the light of the sun at all. So that the light of the sun or the sun is completely hidden. Okay, while the semi-shadow, if I'm standing in the semi-shadow area, okay, which is the faint outer shadow in which a partial solar eclipse occurs, that means not a total eclipse. This is just the partial one. So only part of the sun appears. And here in this picture, can we see here, this is a type of a partial solar eclipse in which only part of the sun appears. Okay, the total one, that means it's completely hidden though, so nothing appears at all. So here in the picture there are different types of the solar eclipse. Can you see the first one on the left side? This is just it's not eclipsed here, the sun is not eclipsed here, and then later on only part of the sun is eclipsed or hidden, and the other one as well, but the parts which are hidden are increasing, okay, or are being bigger, okay, until nothing appears from the sun, which is down to the right. Okay, so down to the right, here the light of the sun is completely hidden. Only just a circle appears, which is this type or this part is called the corona of the sun. So the types of the solar eclipse are, so we have three types. A total solar eclipse, as we said, in which we cannot see the sun completely, as we said, and it's formed in the shadow area of the moon. So it's the shadow area of the moon. In the solar eclipse, it's very important to know that the shadow is that of the moon, because when later on we take the lunar eclipse, we'll know that it will be, or it's going to be, the shadow of the earth. Okay, so here when it says the shadow of the moon, that means this is a solar eclipse, because the moon is the object which casts its shadow. So in the real shadow area, or in the umbra of the moon, if I'm standing in this area, okay, so I cannot see the sun completely, and this is the picture here. In the middle one, the partial solar eclipse, it says when we can see a part of the sun, like we see here, it's very clear, and it is formed in the semi-shadow area of the moon. That means if the person is standing in the semi-shadow area or the penumbra of the moon on the earth, on a part of the earth, so he's going to see only a part of the sun, and this is called the partial solar eclipse. What about the annular solar eclipse? The annular, this is a type of shadow, okay, which appears as a lighted ring, or as a lighting ring. As you see, there is a lighted ring appearing here. Okay, and this only happens in a certain case, where the orbit of the sun, or when the sun gets in a higher orbit from the Earth. Okay, so the cone shadow doesn't reach the Earth. Okay, there's another type of shadow which appears here, not the real shadow one, and it's not important to know how does it occur, just to know that the annular solar eclipse, it happens, and it looks like a lighted ring. Okay, so actually we have three types: the total solar eclipse, the partial solar eclipse, and the annular solar eclipse. Now, if we need to watch or see the solar eclipse, sometimes it happens in our area, or sometimes it occurs in Egypt or in the Middle East or anywhere. So some of the people, they get scared, and they say we shouldn't go out, and we shouldn't just look at the sun in this time, and so on. Actually, there are certain safety precautions on observing the solar eclipse. It's really something interesting to watch the solar eclipse. Okay, but there are certain safety precautions that should be taken. Okay, so first of all, certain glasses should be worn. Why they are worn? Because the outer solar corona, if you remember when I told you that there is an outer solar corona, maybe I will show you the picture. Okay, oh, where is the corona? It occurred in one of the pictures. Maybe here, down to the right. Okay, this is called the corona. Okay, by the way, this is not an annular eclipse. This is the corona of the sun. And here as well, in the total solar eclipse, the first picture to the left, this is the corona of the sun. Okay, so the outer solar corona keeps on emitting harmful rays like the ultraviolet and the infrared rays that harm the eyes. Now, actually, if the sun we are in a normal case, can we look at the sun directly? Of course not. The light of the sun is very, very strong, right? But in case of the solar eclipse, the light of the sun is not that strong, so we are able to look directly to the sun. But unfortunately, this is very, very dangerous. Why? Because, as we said, there is still an outer solar corona that emits these harmful rays like the ultraviolet and the infrared rays, and these types of rays, they harm the eyes, and sometimes they can lead to blindness within few minutes if the person keep on looking at the sun or at the solar eclipse for a while, a few minutes or maybe more. This might lead to blindness. And why is that? Because this type of rays, they affect the eye, especially the retina of the eye. So that's why we should use special glasses to observe the solar eclipse. Okay, I hope everything is clear. Thank you.